In the small town of Ravenswood, nestled between dense woods and rolling hills, lived a woman named Emma. She was an ordinary soul, working as a librarian and leading a quiet life. Little did she know that a shadow lurked in the corners of her existence, a malevolent force that would soon shatter the tranquility she had taken for granted. It all began innocently enough. Emma started noticing peculiar instances, a flicker of movement at the edge of her vision, a sense of being watched in the dimly lit aisles of the library. At first, she dismissed these sensations as mere figments of an overactive imagination. But as the days passed, the feeling intensified, and a chilling realization dawned upon her. Someone was stalking her. The stalker, a phantom draped in shadows, became bolder with each passing night. Emma started receiving anonymous messages. Cryptic notes slipped through her mailbox, haunting whispers over the phone, and unsettling emails that seemed to know every detail of her life. The stalker reveled in the power of anonymity, playing a twisted game with Emma's sanity. Haunted by the relentless pursuit, Emma's life unraveled. Sleepless nights became the norm, her eyes constantly scanning the shadows for a glimpse of her unseen tormentor. The once familiar streets of Ravenswood transformed into a labyrinth of fear, and even the comfort of her own home became a prison of paranoia. As Emma's desperation grew, so did the stalker's cruelty. Distorted images of her face began appearing in unexpected places, on her doorstep, on her workplace bulletin board, and even on her computer screen when she least expected it. The stalker seemed to revel in the psychological torment, leaving Emma teetering on the brink of madness. Terrified and isolated, Emma confided in the local authorities, but the stalker's elusive nature made them skeptical. They could find no tangible evidence, no fingerprints, no trace of the sinister presence that haunted her every waking moment. Emma's friends and family, unable to comprehend the depths of her terror, distanced themselves, leaving her utterly alone in her nightmare. As the stalker's malevolence reached its zenith, Emma stumbled upon a series of old, tattered books in the library where she worked. These books, filled with ancient tales of dark entities and vengeful spirits, hinted at a ritual that could potentially reveal the identity of her tormentor. Desperate, Emma delved into the forbidden knowledge, hoping to find a way to unmask the shadowy figure haunting her. The ritual was both elaborate and dangerous, requiring Emma to venture into the heart of the woods that surrounded Ravenswood, armed with candles, ancient incantations, and a heart heavy with fear. She performed the ritual under the pale light of the moon, in the midst of whispered invocations. The wood seemed to come alive with an eerie energy, and a figure emerged from the darkness. The stalker materialized before her, a specter of malevolence that seemed to transcend the boundaries of the living and the dead. As Emma stared into the abyss of its gaze, she saw not a face, but a reflection of her own fears and insecurities. The stalker was a manifestation of the darkness within herself, an embodiment of the psychological demons she had unwittingly unleashed. In a climactic confrontation, Emma battled the spectral stalker, facing the twisted mirror of her own fears with every ounce of strength. She resisted the taunts and illusions, forcing the entity to dissipate into the shadows as the last remnants of the stalker vanished. The oppressive weight that had gripped Emma's soul lifted, and she found herself standing alone in the silent woods. The ordeal had left its scars, both physical and emotional, but Emma emerged from the darkness stronger than before. The townsfolk, once skeptical, witnessed the transformation and the harrowing tale she had to share. Ravenswood, forever changed by the specter of its own darkness, learned a chilling lesson about the fragility of sanity and the shadows that lurk within the human psyche. In the quiet suburban town of Willow Creek, nestled among the whispering pines and winding roads, there lurked a presence that sent shivers down the spines of its residents. It wasn't the darkness that cloaked the streets at night, nor the eerie silence that settled over the neighborhood like a thick fog. No, it was something far more sinister. Something unseen yet felt by all who dared to wander the streets after dusk. The tale began innocently enough, with whispers among the townsfolk of strange occurrences and unsettling sightings. At first, it was dismissed as nothing more than the product of overactive imaginations, the result of too many late-night horror movies and campfire tales. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the whispers grew louder, and the fear that gripped the town tightened its icy grip. It started with small things, a rustle in the bushes, a fleeting glimpse of movement out of the corner of one's eye, but soon, it escalated into something far more sinister. Pets began to disappear without a trace, their owners left with nothing but empty collars and broken hearts. Windows were found shattered in the dead of night, with no explanation as to how or why they had been broken. And then there were the letters, each one more chilling than the last, filled with cryptic messages and ominous warnings. They would appear seemingly out of nowhere, slipped under doors, tucked into mailboxes, even found lying on the kitchen counters of unsuspecting homeowners. Each letter spoke of a shadowy figure, a presence that watched and waited in the darkness, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly hunger. But perhaps the most terrifying aspect of all was the stalking itself, the feeling of being watched, of never truly being alone. Even in the supposed safety of one's own home, it was as if the stalker was always one step ahead, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Despite their best efforts, the residents of Willow Creek were powerless to stop the stalking. Some fled the town in terror, seeking refuge in the safety of distant cities and far-off lands. Others remained behind, determined to uncover the truth behind the sinister presence that haunted their every waking moment. But no matter how hard they tried, the stalker remained elusive, a phantom in the night that slipped through their fingers like smoke. And so, the town of Willow Creek remained trapped in a never-ending nightmare, its streets forever haunted by the chilling presence of the stalker who lurked in the shadows, waiting patiently for its next victim. In the small town of Ravenshadow, nestled deep within the mist-laden woods, there existed a tale that sent shivers down the spines of its inhabitants. Legend spoke of a malevolent force, a phantom who lurked in the shadows, preying upon the unsuspecting souls of the townsfolk. They called it the Whispering Shade, a name whispered in fear and trepidation. It all began on a cold, moonlit night when the wind carried an otherworldly chill. As if the very air held the secrets of forgotten nightmares, Amelia Thornton, a young artist with a penchant for exploring the mysteries of life, moved to Ravenshadow seeking inspiration for her next masterpiece. Little did she know, the town held more than just quaint charm. Amelia settled into a charming cottage on the outskirts of town, surrounded by ancient oaks that seemed to whisper secrets to one another. The townspeople greeted her with cautious smiles, avoiding eye contact as if a hidden terror bound them in unspoken unity. As Amelia immersed herself in her art, she began to notice peculiar occurrences, strange shadows that slithered across her window panes and an eerie sensation of being watched. Days turned into nights, and as the moon waxed and waned, the unnerving incidents escalated. Whispers echoed in the darkness, barely audible, like the hushed tones of malevolent spirits conspiring against the living. Amelia's once peaceful haven became a theater of her deepest fears. One fateful evening, as she worked tirelessly on her canvas, a cold breath brushed against her neck. She turned, expecting to find an open window or a stray draft. Instead, her gaze met the darkness outside. The Whispering Shade had taken form, a silhouette devoid of features, hauntingly human in shape but an abyss in substance. Terrified, Amelia bolted her doors and drew her curtains, convinced that solitude would be her shield. Yet, the stalker was relentless. Shadows danced along her walls, merging and contorting into a grotesque pantomime. She could hear the ominous whispers grow louder, condemning her to an inescapable. In her desperation, Amelia sought help from the townsfolk, but their faces contorted with fear, lips sealed by the weight of ancient dread. The more she probed, the tighter the web of silence wrapped around her. It became apparent that Raven Shadow was a town, ensnared in a curse, and the whispering shade was its malevolent guardian. As the nights blurred into a never-ending nightmare, Amelia's sanity unraveled. The once vibrant artist became a mere shell of her former self. Haunted by the relentless pursuit of an unseen fiend, she withdrew from the world, driven to the brink of madness by the ceaseless whispers that echoed. One fateful night, unable to endure the torment any longer, Amelia confronted the shadows that had besieged her existence. Armed with a candle and trembling resolve, she ventured into the heart of Raven Shadow's ancient woods, where the veil between reality and the supernatural seemed thinnest. The moon cast an ethereal glow upon the clearing, where Amelia stood, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to lean in, as if bearing witness to a forbidden ritual. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy as the whispering shade materialized before her, its form shifting between the tangible and the intangible. In that chilling moment, Amelia glimpsed the torment etched into the phantom's featureless silhouette. It was not a mere stalker, it was a soul ensnared in a cursed existence, condemned to wander the shadows for eternity. The whispers that haunted her were not intended to torment but to communicate, a desperate plea for release from the chains of an ancient curse. With a newfound understanding, Amelia embraced the darkness and extended a compassionate hand towards the whispering shade. The air quivered as if the universe itself hesitated. Then, in a spectral wisp, the curse shattered. The woods fell silent, the shadows dispersed, and Raven Shadow exhaled, a collective sigh of relief, as the first rays of dawn painted the sky. Amelia stood alone in the clearing. The weight of the town's curse lifted. The once haunted artist had become a savior, breaking the cycle of darkness that had gripped Raven Shadow for generations. The tale of the whispering shade became a cautionary legend, a reminder that even the most terrifying entities might be trapped in their own tragic narrative, seeking release from the chains that bound them to the shadows.